It is time to get out of pocket. I am your host, Michael Davis, and we are live on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. Yes, that is right, guys. I am so excited to be here on the air with you today. We got a couple people joining us a little later on. We're going to be joined by Three from Deep's and Sideline Savant's own Jason, Mr. NY himself. And we're also going to be joined by the Duke, Crystal Luca. He has his baseball podcast, Dugout Debrief, that dropped earlier this afternoon. And for some reason, somehow, I got to follow up what he did because he talked about some big baseball news, including Cody Bellinger to the New York Yankees being dealt. Now, there are trades, there are transactions that happen in Major League Baseball. Those don't happen in college sports, but there is a transfer portal, and we have news that Malik Murphy has decided his next destination. He is going to be an Oregon State Beaver. Enough said on that one. I want to give Malik Murphy credit because he helped really change what that Duke organization was, in addition to what Manny Diaz did coming in as the Duke Blue Devils football head coach, helped Duke to a 9-3 season through a school record 26 touchdown passes this year. And I was originally upset. Well, because two things. A, the college transfer system is just messed up in general. It's a mess. It's atrocious. There is no reason why a player should be trying to transfer out before bowl games. This would be like trying to have the free agency period week 18 of the NFL, right before the playoffs, when everybody's sitting and I'm like, I don't want to play. I'm waiting on this new deal. And they're allowed to sign and just go to that other team. College football has a lot to fix with this transfer portal. But I was originally upset when Malik Murphy made this decision. And then 24 hours later, we found out why. Darian Mensah, the number 2 quarterback in ESPN's transfer rankings. By the way, Malik Murphy was number 4, but Darian Mensah decided to come from Tulane all the way to Duke. 6'5", 230-pound redshirt sophomore was Malik Murphy, and Darian Mensah is coming in 6'3", 200 pounds, so not entirely different build. Darian Mensah having over 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this past season for Tulane. And I'm not sure how Darian Mensah does with this Duke offense, but I do want to say I apologize to Malik Murphy. I would have preferred you to stay for the bowl game, and I think college football needs to fix that, but I wish no ill will towards Malik Murphy. And I'm really hoping he finds success. As of right now, Oregon State, as long as I know, are in the Pac-12 in some sort of fashion. So we'll see what the future holds in store for them. And this is why we do live broadcasts. You can comment. If you're watching us live on Facebook or watching us live on YouTube, you can comment. Jason, preparing to come in, talk about some big NFL news, talking about college football, the world. We have college football playoffs starting this weekend. We got to talk about that. He's saying it is the Wild West. NIL transfer went from limits to everything is open. And I agree. For better or worse, that's the case to it. And Max saying Alabama lost a 5-star recruit to the bowl competition, Michigan. And this is crazy to see what we're fighting against with, players going back and forth, deciding, hey, I don't want to commit to this school. Hey, I'm going to get money from this school. There's a lot of different news. John Mateer transferring from Washington State to Oklahoma as one of the other moves. Eli Sanders going to USC, transferring from New Mexico. There's There's so much going on. And at the same time, these coaches have a job that relies on winning bowl games. And when you look back 3 to 4 years from now, you're not going to remember this coach's record and you're like, hey, well, all of his team transferred. No, you're going to look at this coach's bowl record. Did you win us bowl games? Did you make us money? And I just hope, especially when Duke plays Ole Miss here in a couple weeks, people take into account Manny Diaz and having to, basically rely on a backup quarterback. And Dallas Cowboys have also had to rely on a backup quarterback as well as everybody else. The Dallas Cowboys are again down another man. DeMarcus Lawrence announced he's going to be out for the season. DeMarcus Lawrence will not return to the Cowboys. Trayvon Diggs is well out for the season with a knee injury, and it just feels like it continues to pile up. And my dad and I will be back for Dad and the Boys after, a very brief breakaway. I've had a crazy 2 weeks. That's why you haven't seen Drop the Mic. That's why you haven't seen Dad and the Boys. Dad still did his Starstruck episode. If you haven't caught his next installment of his favorite 100 Dallas Cowboy players of all time, that's available on demand on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel and available through your audio, through your ears on Fans First Sports Network, wherever you find it, Spotify, Apple. It's through Fans First Sports Network. We're very appreciative of that partnership. But I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit on Dad and the Boys. We'll talk about the Panthers beating them. We'll talk about the upcoming game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But man, I feel like every single time I see one of these players missing several games, especially when you look at key players. DeMarcus Lawrence is a key player. DeMarvion Overshown is a key player. Trayvon Diggs is a key player. And we just can't get Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland together for several string of games. It's very disappointing. It's very unfortunate what's happening in Dallas. And Zach Martin also out for the year. And this is what I really wanted to hammer home before I bring in Jason from Three From Deep and Sideline Savants here in a couple minutes. The Cowboys had a window the previous 3 seasons, 12-4 win, 12-4 record, 12 wins, back to back to back. The only team in NFL history to do that. They had talent. They still have talent. But as you start seeing players leaving free agency, Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle has been serviceable. Tyler Biadasz, hey, Cooper Beebe's been serviceable. I'm not knocking any of these guys, but you make no moves to improve your team in free agency. You give Dak the contract extension was the right move. You give CeeDee Lamb the contract extension, which was the right move. Micah Parsons will get his contract, which will be the right move. But doing that Dak deal earlier could have provided just more star power and more talent on this roster. Because now we're starting to see some players who gave 10 plus years to the Dallas Cowboys, like a DeMarcus Lawrence, like a Zach Martin, who are both unrestricted free agents this year. And who knows if they'll play a down of football again. Who knows if they'll play that down of football for the Dallas Cowboys. And who knows how much time they have left. Who knows if they'll go to another organization and have an opportunity as Super Bowl? Because players like DeMarcus Lawrence, players, humans like Zach Martin deserve an opportunity to make a deep playoff run, to get to a Super Bowl. And so the news of Zach Martin, the news of Trayvon Diggs, the news of DeMarcus Lawrence, the news of DeMarvion Overshown, all of these guys who are just hurt. They've ran their course. The window, is it open? Is it closed? Every season is a brand new season. There's still talent on this roster, especially at young key positions like Dak Prescott, like CeeDee Lamb, like Micah Parsons, like Deron Bland. The list goes on and on and on. But it stinks for guys like Lawrence and Martin who have given a lot of themselves to the organization. And I always watch ESPN. I always watch the news, and I'm always ready for breaking news. I'm always ready for what's new in the sports world. And so, as you can notice and imagine, I see a lot of the Dallas Cowboys injuries and all that. But this news came with a quarterback getting benched, not because of injury, but because of performance. And I was scratching my head this past spring when the Atlanta Falcons took Michael Penix after just signing Kirk Cousins to all that money, because you could have used that first round pick elsewhere. Instead, you draft Kirk Cousins backup, probably as a project, kind of like a Patrick Mahomes, kind of like a Jordan Love, kind of like an Aaron Rodgers. But that's not the case. Michael Penix will be making his NFL debut this weekend, replacing Kirk Cousins. And he's not making his debut on Out of Pocket, but I got to bring in the host from Three From Deep, your NBA podcast, your co-host from Sideline Savants. Fantasy football advice dropped yesterday on the channel. I'm bringing in Mr. NY himself, Jason Colenso. Jason, your Giants.
What's going on?
Hey, it's sports, it's football, it's Out of Pocket on a Thursday. I'm glad you're on here, man. The New York Giants, they moved on from Daniel Jones. They knew it was over. But Daniel Jones had several seasons to prove himself. Kirk Cousins just now got to the team. He gets to the team. The organization uses a first-round pick on his backup, not even giving him help on the offensive side of the ball. And now, right as they're in the thick of the playoff race, they're like, hey, we're going to play Michael Penix. We're going to give it to the rookie and see what he can do come playoff time. Jason, this is a head scratcher to me, honestly. I know Kirk wasn't playing the best ball, but why go ahead and make the move now?
I don't know, man. We have a little chat in our fantasy football group, and we were all like shocked when that happened, because this is a change you don't do when you're kind of still alive for the playoffs. I mean, I could see if Atlanta was completely out of it and they wanted to see what they had, so throw them in there, see what you got. But Kirk Cousins has been absolutely horrendous the past 6 games. I think he has 9 interceptions. He has really not proven himself. He is regressed. Look, I know he's a little bit of an older quarterback coming off of a really big injury with that Achilles injury, but this is shocking. Atlanta drafted this kid for a reason. So obviously Atlanta has that much confidence in Penix Jr. to put him out there to try to get him to the playoffs, because that's the only reason you make this change when you're still alive for the playoffs is, all right, who gives us the best chance to make it? And there must have been a lot going on with Mr. Penix Jr. In practices to really show that he was ready for this. It's absolutely, absolutely crazy. I don't know why Atlanta did it. I don't know how they did it, but they did it.
And they did it. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't compute in my mind. Max saying $100 million guaranteed. Go ahead, let me collect that money. But I would feel like Kirk Cousins, yeah, he's still getting paid, and the Falcons, you messed up on that one. But you still have that opportunity. Yes, 18 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, not great. I don't even blame Kirk Cousins in he's losing all these games, Jason. Like, I don't look at that. I look at a team that, did just lose 4 straight before beating the Las Vegas Raiders. By the way, I will be re-collabing with Raiders fan Cody from the Drew Code Sports Talk. You guys want to stay tuned to my socials for an update on that. But they beat the Raiders, which was pretty easy. But I don't even look at all those games and I'm like, hey, Kirk is the problem. Because if you had surrounded this team and surrounded Kirk Cousins with more weapons, then
He's
The
got
Falcons
some
at
talent.
7-7.
He's got talent. That's the thing that's shocking. Drake London. You have, a great running back. You have Kyle Pitts. I mean, I think he's a serviceable tight end, but I mean, that's a whole nother story. But I
Is
mean, you
he?
have,
Is
yeah,
he?
I think if you in the right situation, I think he has some talent. Because look, you make it to the NFL as a starter, you obviously have some talent. So I think a lot of it has to do with some coaching, and there's some issues too. But Bijan Robinson, Drake London, you have some other guys on that team. They recruited a bunch of wide receivers to give to him. So I know they've had some injuries, but look at some of the other teams out there. Look at the Detroit Lions. How many injuries? How many guys are on their injured list? I think they have 19, something insane. But look at what they're doing. Look at what San Francisco did this year with all the injuries that they've had, overcoming and still winning games and still being a productive team. Atlanta, that's just bad quarterback play. He has not been. Kirk Cousins has not been a good quarterback this year. They should have benched him, I think, a while ago. If this is something that was in the works, they should have benched him 5 games ago and then really saw what they had with Penix, because they could have put him in there 5-6 games ago. If he catched lightning in a bottle, then you guys are superstars and you made the biggest pick of the draft. But if he failed in those couple of games, okay, well, then you turn around and you put Cousins back in there, and at least you could say you tried, and then you just ride Cousins out for the rest of the year. To do it right now, it's as baffling as the actual draft pick that they made while giving Kirk Cousins a bag of money. But I tell you what, the MVP is Kirk Cousins' agent, because you talk about someone that has changed the landscape of the quarterback contract. Kirk Cousins, do you like that? And his guaranteed money when he went to and bet on himself and went to Minnesota, that has completely changed the quarterback game. It is insane. So every quarterback now that gets all that guaranteed money, there needs to be a Kirk Cousins clause in there that you got to pay a couple extra bucks to him, because he's the reason why you're getting all that guaranteed moolah.
That is a fantastic idea. We'll see if the NFL actually goes into that. I said this at the beginning. When they hired him, I put an article out on Fantasy Sports Network. Raheem Morris wasn't a great hire. And granted, like, he's 7-7. They're in the thick of the NFC South race right now. They have a chance. Looking at their schedule, they play the New York Giants this week. So sorry, buddy. They have the Washington Commanders December 29th, which would be tough. That's a Sunday night game in Washington. But then they finish the season with Carolina. So they could go win 2 of their next 3, end up 9-8, and hope that Tampa Bay kind of falls off a little bit and doesn't catch fire, even though the Buccaneers have the Cowboys this Sunday night. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough for Michael Penix. Hey, this is your debut, man. You got to make the most of it.
And I think he's playing with house money. If I were Michael Penix, I'm not playing with any pressure. This is not my gig. This is not my decision. This falls completely on the Atlanta Falcons. So if I go out there and kind of stink, I'm not going to get blasted for it, because the team is going to get blasted. So I think he's playing really with house money, and I suspect he's going to play well. I mean, you're going against the New York Giants. They're not playing well. They want the first pick in the draft, so I think there's going to be some olaying going on that defense. So he has a shot to shine. It's going to be tough. I think the Bucs are going to handle that division. Baker Mayfield is playing really, really well. Mike Evans is back. Their running backs are getting a little healthier too, with White and Bucky Irvin. So watch out for the Bucs. I think this is Atlanta waited too long to do this move, but it is shocking. Everybody's baffled by what's going on in Atlanta, because teams don't make these kind of decisions right now. It's weird.
Yeah. Ooh, and Matt bring up a good point. If they win out, could overtake the Washington Commanders for the wild card spot. So that would that'd be interesting, because Washington at 9-5, Atlanta does play Washington. If they were to win, I'd put Washington at 9-6 and Atlanta at 8-7. Could very well make that move and make that adjustment. But we'll keep an eye out. We'll do NFL picks tomorrow on Out of Pocket. But today I wanted to give it to our college football playoffs. That starts this weekend, and we're going to have teams trying to get into the quarterfinals, if you will, of the college football playoff bracket. And so I had to bring in another guy right now. He is the host of Dugout Debrief. He dropped his episode earlier today. We got the Duke, Chris DeLuca. Chris, I appreciate you being on, my friend.
How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. We got college football playoff this weekend, so wanted to go through these picks, and we got 4 games we want to highlight. Indiana, Notre Dame, SMU, Penn State, Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, Ohio State. We're going to get spoiled. I'm excited for a 12-team college football playoff. It feels like, hey, if you got in, you deserve to be in at this point. I'm sorry if you're not one of the first 12 teams in the college football, you don't really deserve to compete for a national championship to be the
Where's
best.
Kent State? Kent State was supposed to make it. Where are they?
For the skies right there. But want to run through these games. I want to start out with Indiana, Notre Dame. The winner of this game is going to play number 2 Georgia. Notre Dame is favored by 7 points. And so, guys, I'm going to ask you, who do you think advances to play the Georgia Bulldogs? Do you have the Hoosiers or do you have Notre Dame on the back of Riley Leonard? Chris, I'll start off with you, my friend.
Hey, man, I think that's honestly probably the most competitive, one of, if not the most competitive games in the first round here we're witnessing. I mean, we've already talked about the crazy weather that they're going to be experiencing. It's going to be a lot of snow in South Bend. It's going to be cold. I think it's low 30s last I checked. So, but hey, man, it gets pretty cold in Bloomington, Indiana, too. So I don't think weather is going to be something that either team's not used to. 7-point favorites, it's close because IU's had a great year this year. And, really their only requirement was just to hold Ohio State close. And, they didn't get necessarily blown out by Ohio State. I think that they deserve to be in that playoff. I'm really happy to see Indiana in. If I'm going to go pick someone, I'm going to pick probably tentatively Notre Dame simply because of their regular season performance. And both have had, I usually won't go with Notre Dame. I'm not a big fan of them because they refuse to join a conference. And I think you should have to join a conference to be considered legitimate. But I'm going to go Notre Dame, and I'm actually going to go with Vegas. And I'm going to say Notre Dame by 7.
He's saying Notre Dame by 7, which is the exact line.
Yeah.
I think you're a little bit out of pocket for saying Notre Dame needs to be in a conference. That's just my opinion. Very traditionalist of me to think, hey, Notre Dame staying independent, give us this good schedule, give us all these good NBC games. But Jason, Chris has Notre Dame. Do you agree?
This is a tough one because a lot of people are really blasting Indiana right now that Notre Dame is this powerhouse, that Indiana really doesn't belong there. Look, the last 5 Indiana played is Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Washington, and they lost that Ohio State game barely, but they beat Michigan State, beat Washington, beat Purdue. I mean, they beat some top-tier teams. Notre Dame, their last 5 was USC, Army, University of Virginia. FSU has been miserable this year, and Navy. So it's like everybody's putting Notre Dame on the pedestal when a lot of times they don't really belong to be there. I have Indiana. I think Indiana wins this game. I think they win it by maybe a little more than a touchdown. I think they got it by 8 or 9 points. I'm going to give it to Indiana. I think they're playing really, really well. They have a chip on their shoulder because everybody is picking Notre Dame, like Newt Rockney's going to walk through the door, touchdown Jesus, is where it's at. But Indiana has played and had a fantastic season. Both these teams are 11-1. I like the wins that Indiana has this past year. And I mean, they lost to Ohio State, but Ohio State lost to Michigan. And they beat Michigan. So I'm giving it to Indiana by 8 points. I think they put this football team and this program on the map, which, again, Indiana is not known for being a football school. So I think this really helps them out. So give me Indiana. I think Notre Dame lays an egg.
Oh, so the exact opposite on Jason. Max saying Notre Dame's de facto ACC. They just won't give up that NBC money. I wouldn't give up free money either. Yeah, we'll play the games anyway. You want to air it on TV, make sure we get nationally televised games. I'm sure that helps some a little bit in the recruiting. When I look at these schedules and I see wins over Texas A&M to begin the year, wins over Louisville, wins over Navy, wins over Army, all ranked at those points in time for Notre Dame. And then I look at Indiana, and they're really their only ranked, matchup, their challenge was Ohio State, and they lost. Now, if it was close, I'd be like, okay, maybe Indiana's legit, but it was a 23-point loss before they bounced back against Purdue. I personally don't believe Indiana should be here. That is my personal opinion. If it was 10 teams and Indiana was left off, I wouldn't be mad. Move SMU up to number 10. Even move Clemson up. But I will go ahead and I'll give it to Notre Dame. I really like Riley Leonard. I might be a little bit biased because he was a Duke Blue Devil, but I can see Notre Dame winning this one. But both of these teams have a tremendous uphill battle when it comes to playing Georgia a little later on. But up next, I want to talk about SMU at Penn State. SMU lost the ACC championship game, and then Dabo went on record and said SMU is a college football playoff team. They belong. They deserve to be here. At 11-2, they play the 11-2 Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State is favored by 8.5. And on Out Pocket, people have been bashing Penn State a lot, especially when they've lost to Ohio State, when they've lost to Oregon. Again, those ranked matchups always determine how people see them. But SMU, they joined the ACC and made everybody pay for it, beating Duke, beating Louisville, beating Pitt, and then just falling short against Clemson. So, Jason, how do you see this one going with SMU and Penn State?
This is a pretty even matchup. Looking at some of the numbers, I mean, you look at the quarterbacks, Kevin Jennings, a little over 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And Drew Aller, 28, 94, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So pretty even as far as offensive-wise. SMU, 3-point loss to Clemson. That was tough. I mean, I think, they're one play away from beating Clemson. If just one stop, unbelievable. Penn State lost to Oregon, which that's the number 1 team in the land. So you got these teams are pretty even. I like SMU a little bit better. Penn State has a tendency to get there and then fall short. They really haven't gotten over the hump the last 10, 15 years. They've always had these good teams and then just kind of fell short. And I think it happens to them again. I think SMU has a really good team. Again, you talk about a program that has something to prove coming off the death penalty. I think they really, really want to get back onto the map. So give me SMU. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be like 3 points. So give me SMU by 3. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. These two teams are pretty evenly matched, but I like them a little bit better, and I like Penn State right now.
He's got SMU for the ACC taking it. Chris, would you agree or disagree?
Hey, man, I got to say, Beaver Stadium College Football 25 is the hardest place to play, and SMU in real life is going to have some issues there. But just looking at Penn State's schedule, and this is no shot at WVU, but Penn State's schedule here, there's not a lot of hugely impressive wins. I mean, they blew out Maryland. They barely beat Minnesota. But, I mean, the games that mattered, they lost. Every year, James Franklin just cannot beat, similar to Jason's point, they cannot get over that hump. Ohio State, they lost to. Oregon, game was not as close. I watched it. The game was not as close as I think the score depicts. Drew Aller does not impress me. And again, outside of that, the two big opponents they faced, not really contending. I mean, they led off with WVU, and look how we performed in the whatever Frisco, Texas thing bowl that we lost. That was at 9:00 on a weekday that I fell asleep at halftime for. But regardless, I'm going SMU. I think they march into Beaver Stadium. I think they get that upset. And I think Penn State once again goes home empty-handed. They are just too incomplete, and their strength of schedule, what they've experienced, just does not impress me. And James Franklin, I think, is kind of a problem. Not personally, but I think his leadership might just be a little bit of a problem there too.
Now, here's my take on this. I would love for the ACC to get 2 teams into the next round of the college football playoff. I think ACC had a really good football year, and not a lot of people want to give them credit. But I will say this, when it comes to this team, I look at SMU's offense, nearly 40 points a game, against Penn State's defense, 16.4 points per game. That's 8th best in college football. I don't care who you play. That defense is legit. And I hope Dallas decides to draft another number 11 from Penn State in this upcoming draft. So give me Penn State at home. Give me Penn State's defense to win and advance. SMU, you're just not ready, and that showed against Clemson. No hard feelings. Next up, we have Tennessee at Ohio State. We have this game, and currently Ohio State's favored by 7.5 points. And the winner of this game will get number 1 seed Oregon in the Rose Bowl next. So, Chris, when you look at these 2 teams, you got the Volunteers, you got the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes coming off that loss to Michigan, which I'm sure Ryan Day wants to redeem himself. Does he do it against Tennessee?
It's going to be close. It's going to be really close. And I have a similar point with Tennessee that I do with Texas, in the sense that they're coming from the ACC. Tennessee is battle tested, and while they may have started a little bit slow, Ohio State, it's hard. This is a close one. This is in my opinion, going back to when we were the first, we were talking about IU and Notre Dame. This is probably tied for the most competitive one. I think it's toss up, but I think because Ryan Day has a flame under his bottom here right now, he knows that his job relies on this. I think Ohio State pulls it off in a close one. I think Tennessee puts up a fight, but simply because they're at the shoe, and Ohio State's hungry. They just got embarrassed at the shoe, and I don't think they want to get embarrassed again.
Jason, do you think Ryan saves his job?
That I don't know. He is definitely on thin ice right now. This is definitely a coaching for his job type game. Tennessee is a good team, but I don't see them. They played some lackluster teams this year, so I don't think they are battle tested like Ohio State. Ohio State only scoring 10 points against Michigan. They are angry there, and they're going to want to drop a 50 burger on somebody. So unfortunately, I think it's going to be on Tennessee. I don't trust their defense against Ohio State. So I think Ohio State wins this game handily, but it's more because Ryan Day is coaching for his job right now, and he is on very, very thin ice right now. So this better not be a close game, because even if they win close and they don't play very well and still kind of win ugly, I still think he's in trouble, because you go to Ohio State to coach to beat Michigan, period. You can lose every other game. They really won't kill you. But if you lose to Michigan, they're ready to throw you right out the door. So, this guy has had an amazing record, his career right now at Ohio State, and yet they still want to fire him just because he can't beat Michigan. It's crazy how college football kind of works that way with these rivalries. But give me Ohio State. I think it's going to be a landslide.
Man, and yeah, I'm full-heartedly agreeing on that, because Ohio State knows this could be Ryan Day's job. You cannot lose to Michigan and then your very next game lay an egg and be a first-round exit in the college football playoff. If Ohio State loses this game on Saturday, Sunday morning will not be kind to Ryan Day. They will not wait to do that move. So you got to save your job. You got to save your coach's job. You still have Will Howard on this team. You have Ibuka. You have Henderson. You have several guys who can help you win. Jeremiah Smith, Quinshawn Junkins. Like, you guys got guys. And I think Ohio State, they're just more desperate for this win. And that leads me to Clemson, Texas. Clemson being 12th in this playoff. They barely squeak in thanks to that ACC championship win over SMU. And they got Quinn Ewers and the Texas Longhorns, who enter as the 5 seed. They will play Arizona State in the next round. Currently, Texas favored by 12 points, dude. 12 points. Chris, is that a huge margin?
I mean, they say Vegas always knows, but I don't know if Vegas knows there. I think it will be closer than we expect, but I'm going to give it to the Longhorns, even though I'm always going to throw up my horns down up here because we're up here in Morgantown right now. But I mean, I see both sides of the argument that Texas, when they've needed to win, have fallen short. Of course, they lost to Georgia twice this year, but they lost to Georgia relatively close both times, 30-15 and then 22-19. But Texas has had wins in tough places to play, and now they're going to be at home. I mean, they beat A&M, and we all saw that crazy, intro pyrotechnics that they got. And a major argument that has been made against them is probably their biggest win is against Vanderbilt. But with Clemson's lethargic start to the year and fantastic finishing to the year, I still think that behind Quinn Ewers, I mean, he's sitting there right now. He's got 25 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He's got a great, touchdown interception ratio, and he's been making a lot better decisions here at the end of the year. I think that against Georgia, they looked pretty good in the SEC championship, and I think it's a close one. I think I'm going to give it to Texas. I'm going to give it to Texas by let's say 3. Texas by 3. I think it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be like the ACC title that Clemson won, but except this time they'll be on the bottom end of that close matchup.
And maybe Kay Klubnik gets in that shootout against Quinn Ewers and Texas Longhorns. Max saying if Arch not starring, Tigers win. He's rooting for Texas. Jason, I know you don't necessarily like Texas teams, but do you think they beat Clemson this weekend?
I don't. Clemson is one of those annoying teams that kind of probably shouldn't be there. But one of the things when you're in these kind of playoff situations or high-pressure games, have you been there before? And Dabo Swinney's been there before. So he knows how to coach up his guys. Look, Klubnik is not Cade Klubnik is not a sleeper quarterback. He's had a great year, over 3,300 yards, 33 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. So he's no slouch. Clemson's been there before. Dabo's been there before. Texas, they're just kind of back on the come up. Ewers, can you win this big game? I don't know. Texas, I think they're going to lose this game. I'm not sold on them. Everybody's real hyped with them, but I think Clemson is just that kind of annoying team. Come through. I know they lost to South Carolina this year, but to finish the year the way they did, to get into these playoffs, Dabo's going to coach these guys up. I think Clemson wins. Give me Clemson by 3. I think it's going to be kind of a defensive game because you have 2 really good offenses, but a lot of times in these kind of games, you've had a lot of break time since the last time these guys have played. And especially in college, you tend to get those kind of ugly games because those offenses haven't really played live action in a while. So you kind of get those dud offensive games and it becomes a defensive game. So I think this is playing right into Clemson's wheelhouse. Clemson by 3.
Well, he's taking Clemson by 3, and I'll go ahead and say this. If we're thinking this could turn into a defensive showdown, Texas is allowing 12.5 points every game. And you're like, what? Well, okay, 12.5. That's second in the nation. That is second in the nation. Texas, I'll be honest, their only kryptonite if we're being honest about this, is the Georgia Bulldogs. Texas has 2 losses, one in the regular season in Georgia by 15, and then the other in overtime in the SEC championship game. If they're not playing against Georgia, then they're winning. And the next time they would potentially see Georgia is the college football national championship, which Texas might lose again to Georgia. So maybe people aren't wanting a three-peat of seeing Texas get beat by Georgia, but they're the only team who stopped them. They're the only team who has the blueprint. And I don't think Clemson, even with Dabo, even with Klubnik, can do that. So I am taking the Texas Longhorns to win based on their defense. And that brings us through our college football playoff. I told you we're going to do our NFL picks tomorrow on Out of Pocket when we are back at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'm super excited for that personally. But we do have a game tonight. We have a very pivotal game. The Denver Broncos, Los Angeles Chargers, they are vying for a wild card spot. Kansas City has locked up that division, even though Patrick Mahomes has been cleared to play this Saturday, less than a week after having a high ankle sprain. Don't know why you're risking that, but that's beside the point because the Broncos and Chargers are trending upwards. Both of these teams are looking to be in the playoffs come January, come next month. It's almost here. Right now, the Chargers sit at the 7th seed. Right now, Denver sits at the 6th seed, and Baltimore has that other wild card spot as of now, and they're going to battle between the Ravens and the Steelers for that AFC North. Guys, this is a huge game. I would go ahead and say, I didn't expect one of these teams, if not both of these teams, to be anywhere close to this position. But give credit to Sean Payton working with Bo Nix. Give credit to Jim Harbaugh working with Justin Herbert. These teams both have stellar defenses as well. If you're a fantasy football fan, the Denver Broncos are number 1 in terms of fantasy football defense. And then in terms of points per game allowed, the Chargers are at number 1 in the NFL. So, big showdown tonight. Thursday night footballs are usually defensive games. Max saying nobody wants ASU when it comes to talking about and home field as well. And when it comes to this game, the Chargers have home field advantage. But I want to do something a little bit different. Before we tell us what we expect to happen tonight, who we pick to win, I want to do a little speed round. Okay? I want to go and say, hey, there's this quarterback on the Chargers named Justin Herbert, but there's this quarterback on the Broncos named Bo Nix, and we're going to go position by position. And I'm going to ask you guys who you think has the better advantage. And I'm going to start with the better coach. Do you think it's Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers, or do you think it's Sean Payton with the Denver Broncos? Jason, what says you?
Sean Payton, he's got a ring.
Chris?
Same, Sean Payton. I think he's just more NFL proven. I mean, Harbaugh will give him some time. I think that his selection with the Chargers was a very good selection with those tools that they got, up-and-coming team, but I'm going to go with Sean Payton just because he's proven.
I'm going Jim Harbaugh. Every organization he's been in, he's turned around, whether it's the NFL or college ranks. What he's done with the Chargers after losing Eckler, Williams, Keenan Allen, it's a miracle. He should already have a ring with one of those 49er teams, but that's aside from the point. Better quarterback, Justin Herbert or Bo Nix? Chris?
Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert's quietly had a very good year this year. He's controlling the ball a lot better. He's managing his own health better. I mean, even there's the rib injuries, the ankle injuries, but he's finally willing to sacrifice a play for his own body. And you can see how that's affected his accuracy this year. Bo Nix, in my opinion, is one of the best young quarterbacks. I mean, him and Jaden Daniels are fantastic, but I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. He's road proven.
Jason, do you agree?
These quarterbacks are almost a mirror to each other. Herbert, 29-59 total yards so far, 16 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Crazy. Bo Nix, 29-72, 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, but being a rookie. So both of these guys pretty even, but I'm giving the edge to Bo Nix. Bo Nix has wheels. He can move out of the pocket. Herbert's been hurt a little bit. He's not as mobile as someone like Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix has that little bit of scrappiness in him. So I'm giving the slight edge to Mr. Bo Nix. He has impressed me this year. Just his poise, the way he has commanded the field. He shows a veteran presence being a rookie quarterback. And I think I'm going to pick him, Bo Nix.
Which is pretty awesome. Also, I told you guys earlier, I'm going to be collabing with Drew Code Sports Talk once again. You want to stay tuned to my socials to find out when this new episode drops. Drew Code saying he trusts Harbaugh more, turn around Niners and Chargers win the first season. It's already good. He's buttering up to me when I'm his guest. He says, need to see how Bo Nix is in year 2, but Herbert all day. I disagree on this one. I'm going Bo Nix. Justin Herbert, He had all the talent in the world, and he didn't do much with it. He has had a resurgence this year. I think he has played better. It doesn't help that Quentin Johnston drops all his passes, but for Bo Nix to come in as a rookie, and everybody was like, Russell Wilson can't do it. Bo Nix can't. No, Bo Nix has proven, and what does Bo Nix have to work with? He came into a really bad situation. He had a coach that believed in him, and he's using that confidence to propel himself forward. So I give the slight edge to Bo Nix. Now, who does have the better weapons? The Chargers or the Broncos? There's not much to pick from either way. Jason, who has the most help?
Well, they're both really struggling as far as running back. I mean, you got Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin for the Broncos. They had a whole 49 yards total last week, so a terrible three-headed monster there. The Gus bus is basically out of gas. You got Kiami Vidal, who's nothing. So neither one of these teams have any kind of run game. But when you say weapons, Cortland Sutton, Ladd McConkey, who's the better of the two? Cortland Sutton, a little bit more of a veteran, again, presence. I think he has really meshed well with Bo Nix, but Ladd McConkey has been playing out of his mind. Ladd the Impaler, I think he's going to be a stud in this league. So right now, to me, it's a tie. They both have a terrible run game and about the same as far as wide receivers and tight ends. There's not much sizzle to the steak with these offenses. That's why their defenses have to play the way they do, because they don't have the huge deep threat. They don't have that Saquon Barkley running back on either team, especially that J.K. Dobbins got hurt for the Chargers. So this one's a tough one. I'm saying it's a toss-up. I like both of these teams. I think they are pretty evenly matched when it comes to weapons.
You're going to hate me. I'm going to make you pick one.
I'm giving the slight edge to Denver because their guys have been healthier than Ladd. Still has that little bit of an injury. He's been playing well, but hopefully nothing flares up. But I'm going to give the slight edge just because Sutton, a little more veteran presence. So I'm going to give that edge to Denver.
All right. Chris, would you agree? Who has the better weapons, the Chargers or Broncos?
I got to agree with Jason in the sense that it is a toss-up. Obviously, I'm going to pick one, but I have to agree with Jason in the sense that it is a toss-up. I mean, they're basically mirrored identical to each other, and especially with Dobbins going down. By the way, he is an amazing success story with the injuries he's dealt with. I really hope he can recover and be what he is when he's healthy and 100%. But Ladd McConkey, I mean, just being back on to Jason's point, I mean, already 5 touchdowns to 873 receiving yards this year. And I mean, he's been the difference maker. He is always getting open. He is a reception king. He's a PPR god. If you have him in fantasy, which I do in like one random free league, I guess I know who I'll be drafting in our league next year when I join the Boom Broadcasting League next year, because I came on here a little bit late, but you know, we might see what we'll figure it out. We're a long way ahead of ourselves right now. But with that being said, I got to go with the Chargers just because of Ladd. I mean, he gets open, he does what he needs to do, and fully healthy, hoping he can get fully healthy. I think that the Chargers, objectively, by a very, very slight margin, have the better weapons. Justin Herbert, man, he knows how to make something. He knows how to make something out of nothing. I mean, look, he only has 2 picks, so.
Hey, that is true. Drew Code needs to sign up for that league. We might need to start a wait list on the
Too.
and Jason's not even in
I'm
yet.
in.
He joined in late. Did we just get 3 new signups? Maybe we'll start knocking down people out because you're like, hey, where you been? Why ain't you hopping on Out of Pocket? Why you suck at fantasy? Why you ain't watching Sideline Savants to get your fantasy football advice? It's free. It's free advice. Why wouldn't you take that?
Exactly.
So we might be circling the wagons. I'm not going to make anybody upset. This is a tough toss up. I want to give it to the Chargers, even despite Quentin Johnston. I don't think you can rely on Quentin Johnston to catch the ball when the game matters, but Ladd McConkey's showing that he is really that offense when it comes to a lot of these games. Joshua Palmer, also a 500-yard season so far. But Quentin Johnston leading the team with 8 receiving touchdowns. And if J.K. Dobbins was still here, it would be an easy Chargers have the better weapons. But that's also why I think Bo Nix is the better quarterback other than Justin Herbert. And now it comes to the better defense. Both of these teams are giving up 17.6 points per game. They lead the NFL along with the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Eagles aren't playing tonight. It's the Broncos, Chargers. Eric knows it's going to be a great game. Jason, Chargers or Broncos defense?
Whew, again, these teams are really just the same team, just switch jerseys. It's amazing how close they are. They both have an amazing defense. Total defense, Broncos are 8th. The Chargers are 15th. Pass defense, Broncos are 16th. Chargers are 10th. Run defense, Broncos are 5th. Chargers are 19th. Scoring defense, they're both number 1. So, I mean, you talk about just a really both well-oiled machine. But Patrick Surtain, I love the Broncos. I think they have a little bit better secondary. I think they're definitely a better defensive team. I like the Broncos. Chargers are a good defensive team, but Broncos have been playing consistently all year. Good defense. Give me the Broncos. I think their defense, nobody wants to play them in the playoffs. They're one of those teams that are just – that defense is scary. It can mess up your game plan, and I think that's what it's going to do.
And Drew Code Sports Talk just used the word scary almost simultaneously. That was eerie right there. And Friday the 13th was last week, so what are we doing? Chris, who do you think has better defense, Broncos or Chargers?
I think it's close. I mean, just rattling off, I'm not even going to re-rattle off the same stats that Jason rattled off, but I'm going to go with the Broncos. They are scary. I mean, and there's a couple stats I will go over. The Broncos are 7th in fumbles forced, and then in overall takeaways. Overall takeaways, they're 6th with 23. Really, only one other thing I want to bring up here is the Chargers are slightly better when it comes to penalties, only having 84 as opposed to the Broncos 93 on defense. But those defensive penalties can mean a lot. So who knows? Maybe tonight will come down to one. But objectively, I'm still going to have to go with the Broncos, having with Patrick Surtain that great secondary. I think they might actually pick Justin Herbert off for a 3rd time this season tonight.
Wow, that would be impressive right there. I don't want to be like the guy who just hops on the bandwagon. He's like, hey, no, this Broncos defense is legit. When you look at what the Denver Broncos have done defensively, it's just amazing. You even think like if they had this defense last year, they'd lead the league in sacks with 49. Even though the Chargers generate more turnovers, I feel like that's part of why the Chargers are successful as a defense. It's nasty. 81.5 passer rating allowed defensively for the Denver Broncos means quarterbacks don't want to play them. So I'm going to give it to the Denver Broncos defensively. But who gets the game? Who gets the win? That's the Denver Broncos, Los Angeles Chargers, Thursday night football. If you have Prime Video, you'll definitely want to watch it. The line is at 2.5, favoring the Chargers in LA. Chris, hold up. We we got fantasy football advice right here. I told you it's free. Since you're watching Out of Pocket live right now, Jason, do you have any fantasy football advice? Anthony Richardson or Jaden Daniels?
I go with Daniels. Richardson has been suspect this year, not playing very well. He's not really consistent. Jalen Daniels and Terry McLaurin have been on a freaking tear. They have a little better run game there with the Commanders. They're playing for something too. The Colts just too inconsistent. I'm going Jayden Daniels all day long. I think he's going to be Rookie of the Year with a slight Bo Nix right behind him. But Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, that's all day long. I think they're going to have another 2-touchdown game. So Daniels all day long.
That is a great question, Mr. Perkins, especially since Jane Daniels is going up against Philly. Drew Code Sports Talk saying Daniels as well. Chris, Broncos, Chargers tonight. How do you see this one going, and who takes the win?
Hey, man, I think it's going to be close. I really think it is. The defense of both teams will stand up strong. I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game, as most Thursday games are. Who knows? That could age like milk in the Arizona sun. But I mean, just look at the Chargers past this year. I mean, their offense has performed when their defense has performed, and even when they've lost, they've held teams close. I mean, we all remember that Sunday night game against the Chiefs that they should have won. Honestly, a few mistakes away from that. 19-17, they held Baltimore, another very good team, 30-23. They held on and beat the Bengals 34-27. And overall, when their defense has performed, their offense has at least kept them alive. And I think that they will step up just enough. And I still think that the Broncos offense is still unproven enough to be able to get over that hump of the Chargers. And I'm going to have the Chargers win by 7 this evening.
He's got Chargers by 7. Jason, agree or disagree?
I stink at Thursday night games. I really do. They are the bane of my existence because I think the universe knows that I truly hate Thursday night games. I think they're bad for the NFL. I think they're bad for players. They need to get rid of them. Go to a double Monday night game and let's give these guys some rest. I can't stand Thursday night games, Thursday night trap games. They are terrible for fantasy football. But being that said, I'd like the Broncos to win this game. I really like the Broncos team. I'd love to see them and that defense in the playoffs making some noise. This is going to come down to, I think, probably a field goal. So I'm going to give the edge to the Broncos. Again, I think they have the better defense. Bo Nix has some wheels. So if he's going to get loose in the secondary, I think he has an opportunity to show why he's a dual threat quarterback. He can throw the rock and he can run. Herbert just is not a dual threat. He's pocket passing, and I think Surtain and them boys out there are going to eat all night long. So he better watch it. So give me the Broncos by 3. I think they go in there and upset the Chargers at home. I really like Nix. Again, I think he's so close to being Rookie of the Year right now. That's what I got.
Now, I don't look at people's notes. I don't know who they pick before we go on air, but Jason is really, 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 really bad at Thursday night picks, which makes me want to side with Chris and say the Chargers, but I can't do it. I can't do it.
No, I know, right?
Max saying Broncos and Bo Nix takes the lead for Rookie of the Year. I really like this Denver team. Even though they're on the road, this could be a great moment for Bo Nix to really take it over. Plus, it will be close, and it'll come down out one play. And if the Broncos realize, hey, Ladd McConkey is our biggest threat, let's put Pat Surtain on him and just allow Quentin Johnston. Like that's going to shut down this Chargers offense. So I'm going to give it to the Broncos tonight for Thursday night football. But guys, we are up against it for Out of Pocket with Michael Davis on Boom Broadcasting. You guys want to go watch Sideline Savants from yesterday with Jason and Wayne talking some fantasy football. You want to go and watch Dugout Debrief that dropped earlier this afternoon, talking about all the big baseball news, including Cody Bellinger, the newest New York Yankee as well, and his AL West breakdown. These guys have been absolutely killing it. I appreciate them hopping on Out of Pocket and all these other shows to help out where they can. It's a team, it's a family, and It's an exciting time. Out of Pocket will be back tomorrow for NFL picks, and we'll also have Dad and the boys back tomorrow. Me and my father, Mac, are going to do great. And again, stay tuned to social media, and I'll tell you when I will be on Drew Code Sports Talk next. But for Jason, for Chris, for myself, Michael Davis, this has been Out of Pocket on Boom Broadcasting. We hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you very much.